GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From wherever we decide studios, broadcasted live on iTunes, Spreaker, and worldwide, this is the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast with your host, the producer, Pat G. The G stands for gangsta. And now kick back and get ready for the eargasms.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast. We are back on the audio version. Hopefully you've caught us on the video version on the Twitch channel, which was kind of a prelude, prequel type deal to give you a little bit of wrestling content from us, while both me and my amazing co-host Dan got our schedules situated because we are grown men, we're adults, and the last 3-4 months have been a living freaking monumental hellish type of time.
All right, let me clear up what Pat G just said, because the G stands for gangster. Adult-ish and kind of grown up. We're adult-ish and we're kind of grown up, but we still need to make that money to pay the bills.
Factual, yes. Both of us just recently starting a whole new regimen. Dan no longer working at 2:30 in the morning. He's onto that lovely 8 to 5 schedule. How's that treating you so far?
So far, so good. You know what the best part about it is? I'm awake at night, so I get to watch more wrestling. I'm getting up in the morning, as you know, at 4 a.m. to be able to be in the gym from 5 to 7. I'm rocking it out. And I mean, dude, it just feels good to be able to get stuff in and not feel so rushed. What about you?
Yeah, the gym runs from 5 to 7. Very nice. Getting used to it. Body's getting used to it. Work is getting better. People are actually paying me their money to settle their debt. So I'm getting nice fat bonus checks.
And fat checks is what it's all about. Here.
Yes. But speaking of fat checks, the WWE recently got a nice big fat one. We had talked about it previously on the Twitch cast. WWE Network is no more, and now we are with NBC Peacock WWE version. And so far, a lot of mixed feelings and reactions.
So did you make the switch over to Peacock?
I have. I canceled my network at the in March. I watched Fastlane. I did not watch Fastlane because I wasn't really interested in it. Plus, I was busy doing a lot of homework for school.
I watched it for both you and I.
Yeah. Yes, you did. So my WWE Network is officially gone. It's deleted from my PS4. I have Peacock on my newly bought 55-inch television that is securely tight to my wall.
Man, some people must really be paying out debts if you're getting a bonus check that's 55 inches.
Oh, yeah, totally. But the NBC Peacock exchange with the WWE Network has led to some mixed reactions because they are eliminating past footage that does not fit in with their standards and practices. Alert the right to censor.
Okay. So to put it into some context, as best as we can, the Roddy Piper Bad News Brown match from WrestleMania 7, WrestleMania 6.
WrestleMania
6, where the Hot Rod painted himself.
Nope, the whole segment and match is gone.
Yeah, that's all gone.
as well as when Vince McMahon dropped the N-word during the 2015 Survivor Series to Booker T.
2005.
2005. Sorry, yep. 2005. And then
it's cool. A lot of content.
Yes, and also now NBC is reviewing 17,000 hours of WWE Network material and will be eliminating anything that they deem necessary does not fit into their mold of programming, so to speak. But yet, they are perfectly fine promoting the NBC documentary of John Wayne Gacy and never before released information about a man dressing up like a clown and killing children.
Well, he didn't dress up like a clown while killing children. However, he had raped and brutally murdered 33 men between the ages of 15 and 18 in a couple-year time span and buried 29 of them on his property and dumped 4 of them in a river up the road. I watched the documentary. It was amazing, but that's not the point of this entire thing. Dude, to go through 17,000 hours and, whatever is on, man, ECW isn't going to be on the network anymore. Even there was some stuff that WCW and even WCCW did that could have been considered controversial. And, they kept it on the network. I mean, when Jimmy Jam was having his feud with Ric Flair, and the whole deal was that if Ric Flair won the match, he got a night with Precious, and he did, and they showed that entire hotel weird scene.
Yep.
James J. Dillon watched him from the closet. Dude, no offense. You watch that through the lens of 2021, that's creepy as hell.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the thing is
going to get caught.
This is the thing is for them to go through 17,000 hours of footage and cut a lot of things out. I understand it. I get it. It's 2021. 2021. You have cancel culture and the Me Too movement and trans rights and for the LGBTQ community and Black Lives Matters and Asian Lives Matters and all these things and everything. But it gets to a point where you have to suspend disbelief a little bit because people have come out and said, yes, some of the things that we have done in the past may not have been done in the greatest light, but they were done in a different time and situation. And with pro wrestling, for the longest time, up until probably within the last decade, pro wrestling always had that suspension of disbelief of it's not real. It's fake. Everything is planned. Everything is staged. Everything is predetermined. Now, while comparing
themselves to other forms of entertainment, like WWE has its own movie, has WWE Studios. Their wrestlers have become some of the highest grossing movie stars. And even they'll say, when we didn't have competition, wrestling wise to go against us, we started competing against other forms of entertainment because that's what they saw themselves as is entertainment. Certain scenarios will be written and certain scenarios have been written and have been performed that you could go back and retroactively look at and say, okay, you might not be able to get away with a porn star wrestler again. You know what I mean? Like, there's these ideas that, like, while we're great at a moment, you couldn't get away with today. But that doesn't mean that in 1998, Val Venus, for example, wasn't one of the most popular wrestlers and best performers they had.
Yeah.
But if someone were to go back and start looking at footage, they could build a case against anything that aired in '98.
Oh God, they could build a case against anything from, say, 1996 to 1999, which is the prime era of the Monday Night Wars and Attitude Era.
Yeah. I mean, you could say a lot of things. I mean, they've already, cancel culture tried to take a swipe at Eminem. That didn't work. And, if they decided to go after pro wrestling, there is programming where you could say, Mr. McMahon slept or was insinuated to have slept with all of the divas on the roster as his Mr. McMahon character. So you could go back and say, well, that was a misogynistic representation. That was very bad. And guess what? It was meant to be bad. He was meant to look like an egotistical D-bag. He was trying to portray that character. So, you could say, Mr. McMahon from 2001, would you say about 2000 he became a horn dog?
Yeah.
And, you could say that Mr. McMahon all the way to 2007?
2008? I wouldn't really say 2007. I'd probably say around 2004, because then what you had 2005, he kind of got away from that because he was excuse me, he had that run of matches versus Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart.
Well, Shawn Michaels was 2006, and that's when he was still doing the Kiss My Ass Club.
Yeah. It wasn't so much that he was doing the Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon horn dog character. He was still being the heel authoritative character and going, ha ha ha, I'm a billionaire, and insulting people like the people that were lower to him, Jim Ross, so on and so forth. But I would say probably that late 99 to early 2004 into maybe early 2005-ish is when he was getting because he had Stacy Keibler as the secretary and Trish Stratus and so on and so forth. And then he got into that thing where he got in the ring because he wanted the match it, because he thought he could strike lightning twice with having that former employee boss type scenario like he did with Steve Austin with the likes of Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, so on and so forth.
Yeah. And so you could go back and you could look at these stories, these storylines, but that's exactly what they are. If you think about it, they do tout, whatever. The thing where it's Raw is the longest running weekly episodic television series in the history of television. Okay. You can literally take that and be like, that's 100% true. And over all of those years, there have been some crazy stories. There have been some lame stories. There's been stereotypes blown up to 1,000%. Yeah, but at the same token, they've also flipped stereotypes and given us someone like Yokozuna.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you have to think Yoko, he was one of the best Samoan wrestlers, and he was a sumo.
Yep.
It's but he brought that character to life because at that time, that cartoonish sumo wrestler worked. Plus, anyone who liked E. Honda from Street Fighter was completely behind Yokozuna.
Oh, absolutely.
That was E. Honda in human form. But I digress.
Yeah.
You're gonna find bad crap if you look for it. When it comes to entertainment. And
the biggest issue with the whole Peacock thing is, I get it. Trust me, I understand it. I get it. I understand it. Why they're doing it. It's 2021. They're canceling Pepe Le Pew of all things. So it's the one things of everything from your childhood is no longer sacred. and I've come to just understand it and accept it. WWE is just going to be one of those things. It's a shame that you're gonna, on certain pay-per-views, you're gonna jump from like one match to you're gonna miss out on like whole matches or segments or promos or whatever may be the case. But that's what you get. Like, WWE is a business. They're in this for the money. Vince McMahon in the past 5 years has made 2 blockbuster deals for $1 billion over 5 years, respectively.
Yeah, with the Fox deal, the renewed USA deal, and then Peacock.
Yep.
This, the thing that I do want to, the only problem so far that I've had with this entire Peacock transition was I watched Fastlane on Peacock.
Yes.
Okay. This was the problem that I had. And I think it was because it was like not real network. So the WWE Network was always running. They always were, quote, live.
Yep.
Though it might
they always had a live stream go. They always had that live stream option, which was showing something.
Exactly. So like the Broken Skull Sessions usually follows a major pay-per-view or some documentary of some star.
Yes.
That they want you to start getting behind. As soon as it ended on Peacock, that was it. It said presentation has ended.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yep.
And I'm like, you mean to tell me you're not going to throw like the WWE Network logo and then move to or at least a commercial and then transition into, hi, I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin, and tonight on the Stone Cold Sessions, we got the the Viper, Randy Orton, boom, beer. They didn't do that. And that annoyed me because it's like that was a feature that I liked on the network.
And also a lot of people were having delayed issues. A lot of people were complaining about the lag. Things were
maybe because I have really super good internet. Dude, I had some of the best picture I've seen on a WWE pay-per-view in a long time running on Peacock. I'm not exaggerating. I
will say this, like I can't say Spectrum's the best internet in the world because it's really not, but like I've used the network on Peacock to view a couple things. I went in and watched while I didn't watch Fastlane live, I went in and I just watched certain things. After I got my TV hooked up and everything, the picture was great. Like the picture looked great. It honestly looked like a very mixed. It looks like NBC's kind of gone, okay, we understand you have your own production team and everything, but let's put the power of us behind it. So it's looked like they've upgraded the production aspect for WWE tenfold. And
I would hope so with the amount of money they just paid them.
Well, yeah. So I don't have that issue. It seems like with Peacock, you're not going to have that issue of where you'd have segment or like minor times where the picture would flip between high def and standard def or the buffering lag issue that you sometimes had with the network. Like I get it. You might have that with Peacock because while they're streaming it live, you're going to have it because of the.
Yeah.
Hopefully they clean it up by the time WrestleMania comes around, and
what are you thinking of this year's WrestleMania anyway?
That's a perfect segue. This upcoming week, you have today and tomorrow, the 1st and 2nd, starting Sunday, April 3rd, is basically WrestleMania week.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, as far as WWE goes, you have such a crazy schedule that it's going to be hard to watch everything live when it's happening.
Unless you have no life.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you have no life. Because you have Monday Night Raw. You have the Monday Night Raw leading into Mania. Then you have the Hall of Fame ceremonies. You have 2 nights of NXT. Night 1, night 2. You're gonna have night 1 and 2 WrestleMania. You also have, and not to mention the rest of the remaining wrestling going on. You have AEW running, you have MLW
SmackDown
running, you have Impact running, you have SmackDown on Friday. Like, this upcoming week is a massive amount of pro wrestling going on. Now, I'm gonna say this is generally, yes, I would go out of my way to watch the Hall of Fame ceremony because that is tradition. This year, if I watch it, I'll watch it at my own leisure. Because they're taping all the inductions all at one shot. So, I don't expect like a lot of people to watch it live when it debuts. I'm guessing a lot of people are going to watch the inductions when kind of on a delay or when they can.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people with the Hall of Fame have talked about how Titus O'Neil is getting the Warrior Award. WWE has come out to kind of squash that a little bit, going that he actually would have gotten it back in 2020, which would have been last year, had the pandemic and COVID not happened. Because a lot of people were campaigning for Shad Gaspard to get it because of all the things he had done, especially his last act before he lost his life, saving his son. A lot of people were pushing that. Honestly, in 2022, I honestly fully believe you're going to see Shad Gaspard inducted into the Hall of Fame with the Warrior Award. I'm calling it now. I guarantee it. That's going to happen next year. WWE came out and said the Warrior Award with Titus O'Neil has kind of been has been in the making for the last 2 years. It would have happened last year because of all the charity work he does in the Tampa Bay area. That's why it's been that's why it's been in the works for as long as it has been, because they were in Tampa. They're like, yo, all the work he does down here, it makes absolute sense. Titus O'Neil getting the Warrior Award for all that charity work he does in the Tampa Bay area, I have no problem with whatsoever.
No.
Because the amount of work he does as an ambassador and everything in that Tampa Bay, Florida region is amazing.
Yeah, and his WWE wrestling career may not have been what, I mean, he's known for the best tripping.
Yeah, like his wrestling career may not have been the greatest, or a lot of people look at Pat. He doesn't really deserve a Hall of Fame nod as far as a wrestler, but as far as a humanitarian and person,
absolutely,
and person who's out there on doing this stuff outside the ring, absolutely. Like he totally deserves it.
And this is this is a cool little Hall of Fame class because, man, Rob Van Dam's going in it.
Yeah. They announced Rob Van Dam. Granted, they pulled Batista, but they pulled Batista mainly due to the fact that they want Batista to be inducted with a crowd. And I get that. He wants
it, and I think the fans want it too, because he was one of the guys during that lull period of pro wrestling in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, and also with the Hall of Fame, with the Hall of Fame thing, you have enough names that are going in that you don't need the big name like Batista. You have Molly Holly, You have Eric Bischoff. You have the Great Khali going in, which I have no problem with because of the strides that man made with the Indian market.
And also the fact that he was a world heavyweight champion.
Exactly. You have Kane going in.
Yes.
RVD. And then, of course, you have the class. You have the class from last year You have the class from last year. You have the class from 2020, which had JBL, the British Bulldog, William Shatner, Titus O'Neil, the NWO, and the Bella Twins. Like, you have more than enough talent and names going in that you didn't need the big name of Batista.
No. And also, he wants to be there. He doesn't want to be like in a movie project.
No,
and
he wants to be there. He wants to be involved and everything. He wants to make sure it's when he doesn't have anything going on. And what's interesting about the WWE Hall of Fame is now that you're getting into 2021, 2022, the 2020 decade here, you're now going to see names that other people that were born in the early 90s, late 90s grew up with. You're talking Batista, you're talking John Cena, you're talking Edge, you're talking various others. And I'm sorry, and this is a wild pipe dream, so to speak. When Chris Jericho finally does hang it up, I honestly hope to God Chris Jericho gets the opportunity to go in. Because he did a lot. While, yes, he's redefined his character as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW, Chris Jericho was a monumental asset to WWE through the Monday Night Wars and the PG era and the ruthless aggression era.
Dude, you can't, especially Jericho would come out and like that would be one of the coolest, if not, he's the headliner of that Hall of Fame class.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Chris Jericho at, I believe it was Penn Station, okay, when he, quote, won the WWF title the first time against Triple H, and that building erupted. I remember being at home, watching that on TV, losing my effing mind. Yeah. Because the dude from WCW showed up, and within a year and a half, or not even a full year, he was winning the title.
He's winning the title and pinning one of the main guys in Triple H.
Yeah, so and he was in a main story with Stephanie McMahon, and that would lead him into 2001 as being super babyface. Yep. And opening up WrestleMania in Houston against William Regal. You got to look at some of this stuff. It's the dude reinvented himself over and over and over again, and his matches with Shawn Michaels, his original WrestleMania match 2003 at 19 against Shawn Michaels was arguably.
I will say this is we know the WrestleMania locations for this year. They're Tampa Bay. Next year is Dallas, correct?
Correct.
And then the following year, I believe
Hollywood.
Next year, Hall of Fame class. Your main inductee is going to be The Undertaker. I don't care. It's in Dallas, Texas. That's his home state. Your main event for the Hall of Fame is Undertaker next year.
And he
end of story.
Got his kickstart due to WCCW and the Von Erichs.
Yeah, exactly. Next year's Hall of Fame, when they're in Dallas, Texas, is going to be all Undertaker. And I will say this now. Hopefully by next year, you'll be able to have the full experience of WrestleMania and everything. I will say this, next year I will find every which way to possibly go to see that man inducted.
Dude, you need to you know what? You need to take some of these fat checks you're earning right now in bonuses, and you need to get ready for that package to drop in August or September.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And once you've got the loot, dude, go to Texas. You'll never come back. You'll go to Texas and you will disappear because you will realize Texas is the greatest state in the entire United States of America. And I live in New York. We just legalized weed. And I am super stoked about RVD being in because, man, first off, do you not notice the irony that RVD and Kane are being inducted in the same class? And they were tag team champions in 2003 when Kane lost his mask.
Yep.
So you look at it, and he had one of the best title wins of all time in New York City. ECW One Night Stand 2006. I was row 3. I remember that night clearly. It might have just been an okay match, but that atmosphere made it one of the biggest main events for WWE in the 2000s.
Yep, and he and had certain things not happened, he honestly would have had a run.
He got caught with weed.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, and New York just legalized it. So,
yep. New York just legalized it. But this is the thing is you have so much going on with the WWE. But you with pro wrestling, you have so much going on elsewhere because now while WWE is focusing on their big pay-per-view WrestleMania, you have AEW just coming off a big event, Revolution, and
huge buys, and AEW has turned in
the way that they're handling Tony Khan and that production team and that booking team is handling everything. Yes, a lot of people are wondering why there's so many goddamn stables in AEW, but you know something? It works.
You know, the funny part about it is it's like, okay, this is going to sound weird, but follow me here. It's like you have a faction and a faction and then a faction. You've got people teaming up. You know, you got two people, you know, forming unlikely duos, if you want to call it that, or likely duos when it comes to Miro.
Yeah.
But like, you look at it and basically they're kind of showing you like, yeah, everyone's got a clique. Everyone hangs out with a certain group of people. It's true in locker rooms. Like, you can go there and be the social butterfly and everything, but, you know, generally when you show up, like, people got their friends that they've been on the road with forever. They kind of sit in the locker room area with them and hang out and talk. And that's kind of, in a weird way, what they're doing with this. While some stables are, like, becoming, you know, pretty huge, like the Pinnacle. And, you know, you've got other ones that are falling apart, Nightmare Family. Within the storylines of these, it's like you have a lot of opportunity for guys to get on television that if they weren't in that position might not be on as much. So you're becoming familiar with these guys. Like, you knew who the Revival was, FTR.
Yeah.
You knew who they were. Okay. You knew who Sean Spears was. Okay. MJF was on, what was it? Times Magazine's like top moments of the year in television with the singing with Chris Jericho.
Yep.
Okay. People now know who he is. It's like, and you know the lineage of the Four Horsemen. It makes sense to do it this way. Give me another faction that's as good and well assembled as that, talent wise, and I'll continue to watch.
And,
you know,
and the thing is
throwing dudes together for that, it wouldn't make sense.
And the thing is you have, and I know a lot of people kind of everybody joked about the ending of Revolution with the death match and the sparklers and whatnot. But outside of that, AEW's putting on quality television. They're putting on quality matches. Like, Britt Baker is a star in the making. I'm sorry, she is. And
I think she's a star now.
She's a star now, but it's the thing. She's a major star in the making to where she's going to be the cornerstone of that women's division once she gets her hand on the championship. I'm gonna say this is Britt Baker needs to be the one to dethrone the champion. she needs to be the one to dethrone the champion.
And it needs to happen at All Out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It needs to happen at All Out in front of a crowd.
In front of the crowd and everything. Yes, you have the Nightmare family kind of imploding, splintering. Last night, the Young Bucks are standing ground against Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers with John Moxley.
And, let's talk about Revolution, because it had a great amount of buys.
It did.
It had a great gate. It actually made the most money against WWE's thing since WCW?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like if you have to sit there and think about it for 5 seconds, it was the company's biggest buy. It was one of the biggest buys in a pay-per-view as an alternative to WWE.
Yep.
And you had some really great stories were told. We joked about the main event. Everyone has made their jokes about it, but it was a solid pay-per-view from beginning to end.
That absolutely was. And you had a couple of great debuts on it. Ethan Page showed up for the brass ring ladder match. Christian Cage was the big signing coming over to AEW to apply his knowledge and trade.
Sting ended up putting over Darby Allin huge.
Oh, absolutely.
In their match against Team Taz, which, by the way, for cinematic matches, that was really good.
It was. It absolutely was. And I love the fact that people were wondering, oh, Sting can't take a bump. You know what? It's not a matter of Sting taking a bump, because I guarantee you, yes, Sting suffers from the spinal stenosis. He says he has it. But if you look at that match and the way Sting was built, he had the long pants, the long sleeve shirt. If anyone's ever played sports, you could tell that man had at least some kind of hockey pads and or football pads or some kind of lacrosse pads underneath that long t-shirt to help protect him when he was taking a bump or any kind of maneuver.
It was a fun story. I think one of the funnest parts for me was I was sitting there on the couch watching it, and Darby Allin is skateboarding through the streets, and he grabs onto the back of a pickup truck driven by Sting, and that's how they get to the warehouse to fight. I'm just sitting here, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of marking out for this, because it's like the old dude and the young kid, and they're both gunslingers, and they're going into this final battle. I'm like, that's hilarious. And the entire card was great, honestly. But then we have to talk about the performance of Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker on a free episode, essentially, of Dynamite.
Yep.
Which, let me build this for you. My dad messaged me at 10 o'clock at night after that. So my dad, who's not necessarily a wrestling fan, stopped on that channel and watched that match because it was so goddamn crazy, and then messaged me asking if I had seen the match. I now understand why my dad messaged me. That was an amazing match.
Yeah, and what's great is it's getting continued on, because Britt Baker had the promo with Rebel, not Reba, where she did the interview, and Thunder Rosa kept it going on social media, going my biggest match was winning the NWA championship and then defending it numerous times. Your biggest match, and she came back, she's like, your biggest match is you in a pool of your own blood on your back losing. And it's just, all this is it's great. Yes, the unsanctioned lights out match was kind of the end of that feud, but they're also keeping the flames stoked just enough for you for the future, just in case they cross paths again.
It's great storytelling, and I know the AEW has had its knocks about thinking short-sightedly with some of the hirings, but you know what? they're also backing it up with young talent, and they're pushing young talent along with building them around these established stars. Okay, like, can you imagine the Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega match?
Oh,
I can.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I can totally see that.
And this
Jericho has been doing it.
Yeah, and this is the thing is AEW's building this young talent around established veterans, established names in the industry and business. Granted, yes, they may not be there's WWE guys or guys that have from the WWE, Dustin, Cody Rhodes, FTR, so on and so forth. But it's the thing of you had, if you looked at last night when they're doing Dynamite and they're doing the Pinnacles in the dressing room of the Inner Circle, and MJF is just running his mouth how they have the interior decorator, and all of a sudden, I'm sorry, it was the most badass scene on a free television show of wrestling that I can remember is when MJF opens the bathroom door and the Jericho, LAX basically, and Guevara are just standing there and I'm going, and he opens the door and he's like, he opens it. They are just looking like four badass dudes, and he closes it and he's like, we got to go. And then he opens the door and Hager's standing there in the same light. I'm like, shit's about to go down. And then
punched him right in the mouth.
Yeah. And what's great is Jericho's helping MJF, who's a 24-year-old kid who has all this talent. And what's great is Jericho throws it back to the line that with Shawn Michaels and going, the worst is yet to come, before he throws him into the Pepsi machine.
He is masterful. Christian, great. I mean, I was shocked. I was legitimately shocked.
Him and the match Kazarian had was very good.
Yeah, I thought, honestly, when they were talking about signing, I kind of did think Punk. And when Christian came out, I was like, oh, he's looking good. He was looking good at the Rumble. And I'm like, okay, so he's got a couple more matches left in him. Let's see what he's got. And then to put him right on a promo, and then the match with Kazarian kind of showed everyone's like, he can still go, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you shouldn't be worrying. And I think that they're making some really good decisions when it comes to what they're providing as alternative content, which is what they wanted to be.
Yep.
They wanted to be alternative content. They're giving us alternative content, even though it's got familiar people. I mean, just because a movie has returning actors doesn't mean those actors still don't have the chops in certain instances.
Yeah. And
then, yeah.
And what the interesting thing is, now it's been reported that NXT is moving to Tuesday nights. Impact is going to be moving to Thursday nights. So now you have the ability coming up in the next month or so. You're going to have 4 nights of professional wrestling: Monday Night Raw, NXT, AEW Dynamite, Impact Wrestling, and then actually 5 because of Friday Night SmackDown.
Yeah.
And the thing is you also have the online stuff, because the independent wrestling organizations are starting to run a little bit more and starting to put on shows as things are loosening and opening up.
And they're on Fight TV.
And they're on Fight TV and other streaming services and whatnot. It's to the point where NXT announced the move to Tuesdays, and honestly, I think it's the best thing for them, because it's, as Triple H said in the meeting that was held before last night's show, it's not so much getting bullied off Wednesday nights, because it's not that. It's just he wants to focus more on what's going on instead of the numbers, because ever since AEW Dynamite has debuted, it's always, a lot of people have been, it's about the numbers, which shows drawing better viewership. And now this allows wrestling fans to enjoy what NXT is doing and what AEW Dynamite has been doing.
Yeah.
Especially with NXT next week having the two big shows, the stand and deliver for WrestleMania week. And both nights, the cards are stacked.
Dude, all right, so you and I actually had discussed, Cross versus Balor.
Yep, we have.
We had discussed it when he debuted. I think both you and I said that's going to be a great big man versus little man match.
Yep.
It's like, is this going to be like this Balor that we're seeing, or is he going to bust out the demon because it's NXT? Or is he going to put crossover?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But the thing is building up to that, you have night one, which is Wednesday night, April 7th. It's going to be simulcast on the network and the network in other places, and Peacock in the US. You have the NXT Women's Championship match, Io Shirai versus Raquel Gonzalez. You have Tommaso Ciampa challenging Walter for the UK Championship. You have
That's gonna be brutal.
You have MSK versus the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Legado del Fantasma for the NXT Tag Team titles. And then you have the gauntlet match for the shot at the North American Championship at night 2, which that has some talent. That has Dexter Lumis, that has Graves and other people, and then of course the new guy, LA Knight, formerly known as Eli Drake of Impact Wrestling. And then night 2, which is Thursday, April 8th, you have Balor versus Karrion Kross. You have the unsanctioned match of Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly, Gargano defending the title. You have the ladder match between Santos Escobar and Jordan Devlin, which I honestly think is going to be a dark horse for a match of the year. That Devlin versus Santos is going to be a dark horse for match of the year, because I think those two guys in a ladder match are going to be it's gonna put on a show.
It's all eyes on them at this point. And I mean, you are ending the card talking about their ladder match when all of the matches that you mentioned before that are stacked matches. Those are all match of the year caliber. And what might pull it out is a ladder match at an NXT that many people would just write off.
Yeah. And the thing is that's not to mention, like, and the thing is you have WrestleMania week and you're, while some things have been finalized, some other things have not been finalized and everything. We're going to talk about it. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it leading up to the show and everything, because the show's not until next week, Sunday, and everything. It's a 2-night event and whatnot. It's going to be in Tampa Bay. They're going to have live fans, so it's going to be an interesting dynamic of having the live fans there.
Do you think this is going to backfire for some of their stories? Because I'm calling one, and I want to know if I'm alone on this one. I think it's going to. I honestly think it's going to backfire on them a little bit because of certain dynamics that they've done. And what's funny is I'm not the only one. I read
I read an interview with Edge. There was an interview with Edge. I checked out earlier this morning. And he talked about how having fans in the stands again could end up backfiring on them.
I think that there's one match in particular, and I'm thinking about it clearly as a fan, that I think the crowd is gonna backfire, and that's Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. I think that without the live crowd, there's an intangible with that match, and this is something I was thinking about while watching from the Royal Rumble, even before that, through Elimination Chamber to Fastlane. The thought that was going through my head is, man, they are pushing her hard against one of the 4 horsewomen.
Yep.
And they're in Florida, in Tampa, where this girl got signed and was trying to find out her character. Like, this may end up being Hulk Rock, for lack of a better comparison, because that's how I think this is going to feel. I think the WWE probably thinks Bianca is going to get cheered and Sasha's going to get booed. But if there is a home field advantage, WrestleMania and Sasha Banks might be a backfire match.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree with Bianca Belair being the hometown girl and everything. And granted, yes, you don't have a full stadium, but you're going to have a good number of people there. I think you're going to end up having that double turn with the crowd.
Yeah.
But if that happens, that's perfectly fine, because I think while the crowd's going to I believe the crowd's going to dictate that double, not the double turn, because they're both essentially faces. They're both essentially being cheered. I have enough faith in Sasha Banks to realize if that crowd starts turning, Sasha Banks relates to the boss and puts on the heel persona that she does oh so very well. And they might cheer her so loud. We don't know. And this is, a lot of people are kind of, not exactly behind this WrestleMania. I'm thinking we got some good matches on this one. We have some matches that could absolutely steal the show. Edge versus Roman versus Daniel Bryan. The build up to this main event was beautifully done. And we need to give credit where credit is due. Roman is being perfect at being a complete dickhead. Oh, absolutely.
Edge, yeah.
It's the best. It's the best that he's been. It honestly has. It's the best that he's been.
And he hasn't done shit. And he hasn't done shit. Like, if you look at it, he's not wrestling every week on SmackDown.
Nope.
He wrestles at the pay-per-view. He has a great goddamn match with Daniel Bryan, both pay-per-views in a row. And then now with interjecting Edge after his Royal Rumble win, where it's Edge feeling like he's got to beat these 2 young guys, and that's what it is. Daniel Bryan wanting to prove he's the best in the world. And, you have Roman Reigns' character coming out being like, I'm the head of the table. You can't touch me, bitches.
Yep.
I think that is an awesome way to do that story.
So, right now, WrestleMania 37, night 1. Bobby Lashley defending against Drew McIntyre. Sasha Banks defending against Bianca Belair.
Mm-hmm.
The New Day defending against AJ Styles and Omos. Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon in a steel cage match. Bad Bunny versus The Miz. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. My dark horse for match of the card. Night 2 is going to see Roman Reigns defending against Edge, Daniel Bryan. Asuka defending against Rhea Ripley.
Now this match may rectify what happened last year at WrestleMania when she walked in as NXT champion and left.
Yep. Especially with the darker look.
Yeah, and the thing that got me was it was like, dude, like that needed to be in front of a crowd.
Yep.
Like that was Rhea's moment to shine.
Yep.
And that needed to be in front of a crowd. I think this is the makeup. This is Asuka, who is arguably the best wrestler on the women's roster anywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have Riddle.
Have a clinic.
You have Riddle defending against Sheamus. The Fiend versus Randy Orton, and then Big E defending against Apollo Crews, and also you're going to have Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, which, if for WWE fans only, if you listen to this show, which I'm sure you do, go to YouTube, look up Kevin Steen versus El Generico. Any of those matches. That's what this is going to be. Kevin Owens gets his chance to jump off the damn pirate ship.
He really wanted to jump off that goddamn pirate ship last year. He was angry. I think that this, honestly, is going to be one of the best matches of the year. I'm not blowing smoke. The moment they signed that, I was like, oh my God, if people liked their NXT stuff, however brief it was.
Yeah.
And the other stuff that they've done. Dude, this is two fully functioning, fully different characters than when Kevin Owens was fight, and Sami Zayn was coming out and being kind of the goofball.
Yeah. And the thing is both nights of WrestleMania right now have two matches that could be dark horses to be match of the night. Night one being Cesaro versus Seth Rollins, and night two being Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn.
I think the Cesaro match is going to be the proving ground to be like, okay, people are behind him. Let's see how he can perform and do it with Seth Rollins.
Yep.
In I don't want to say a thrown together story, but in a story that only happened rapidly recently. But
yeah.
This is a great opportunity for everyone to be like, you wanted Cesaro. Are we getting the Cesaro push?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree. I believe you're going to get the Cesaro push. And what's great is, what's great with WrestleMania is you have all this wrestling, and I'm gonna kind of close out the show with something that's not from the national scene. There's a guy from Buffalo, New York, and I don't know. I know him personally, but I'm not like great friends with him or anything. And his name is the Red Death, Daniel Garcia. If you're a fan of pure, talented, technical wrestling and pure kind of aggression, check Red Death Daniel Garcia out, especially the match that he just had for the Limitless Wrestling Championship against Casanova. Christian Casanova is WWE bound. I bought the match. I didn't watch it live. I kind of had it on a delay. Watch that match or look for highlights of that match. Daniel Garcia is a guy that you're going to see, that you've seen on both NXT and AEW. Daniel Garcia is a name you're going to see in the independents for the next year, building his brand, building his name until he gets a shot with somebody. Everybody's talked about how the last year independent wrestling has been hurt by COVID. Daniel Garcia is a man that is on a mission to make independent wrestling something great again. And he's doing it step by step. He's making it, and brick by brick. If you follow him on Twitter, I believe his Twitter's @RedDeath. or at Daniel Garcia. I'd have to double check on it. But he's debuting in Mexico. He's the heavyweight champion for multiple companies. He's a man that you need to pay attention to. And
so says the man, Paul G.
That's like, honestly, that's how I'm going to end it. I'm definitely going to try to get in touch with him, and see if I can get him on for an interview. Cause he's fantastic. Like he's a guy that's kind of in the same light of that, like, a lot of people have talked about how Bill Collier has that it factor, and Bill Collier just getting his opportunities with AEW over the last week. Daniel Garcia has that it factor, and he's young enough to keep improving and expanding to where Daniel Garcia is going to be a name in pro wrestling.
Well, I think that's a great way to put the man over.
Yeah, basically, it's essentially what I'm gonna. I thought about it, and I kind of was like sitting here because I knew we were doing the show, and now that independent wrestling is starting to come back up again, and there's a lot of people that both you and me know personally from our time in the business. I think kind of at the end of every show, putting someone over and giving the people that listen to the show a name and a place to go to kind of find them to see what they're all about.
I'm up for putting people over.
Because honestly, if you listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts now, it's a lot of people are bitching and not being positive about people.
Well, here at TTRP, we are positive. We are positively putting someone over.
Yes. So you know what? That might be the name of the segment. Positively putting over.
We're good. Yeah, we just coined that shit.
Coin it, phrase it. I just did a class based on trademarks and copyrights, man. Is that where I'm like, I'll have to find out if that's copyrighted, because if it's not copyrighted, I will file a copyright.
We have copyrighted it, bitches, by the time you listen to this.
I know, right? But any final words?
Yeah. I'll see you at the gym in the morning, Pat G.
And with that, we will see you next week on the TTRP, leading into WrestleMania, reviewing all of the WrestleMania week comings and goings. Of course, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're doing a lot of things, and we have a lot of wrestling to catch up on because we've been gone for 4 months, man. Thank you, as always, for Dan. I'm Pat G. This has been the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on the social medias, Turnbuckle Talk on Twitter, Facebook, so much and so forth. Thank you for listening. And as always, be safe, be kind, be healthy, and we will see you on the flip side. The Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast is brought to you by Gear Network and ShopGear.com. We can be listened to via Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you can get your podcasts. The TTRP introduction was done by Trevor Dugan. The show is hosted by Patrick Gancheski and Daniel Roberts. Post-production of the TTRP is done by Patrick Gancheski and John Cimino. If you'd like to follow us via social media, you can search Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast on Facebook. You can follow us at Twitter by using the name Turnbuckle_Talk. Or if you have questions or concerns, you can reach us via email at turnbuckletlkradio@gmail.com. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast, downloading our episodes, following us on social media, and interacting with us.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.